Welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, discuss, and review,
and sometimes argue about every horror movie on Netflix in alphabetical order. The gang's all here. I'm Chris, back again with Patrick.
Hello.
And Steven.
Hi.
And this week we have a very special new guest, Allison.
Hi, I'm very special. Thank you.
She's extremely special, and we're so happy to have you here. What brings you to the group? Explain what you're doing here and your experience with the horror genre.
What gives you the right, Allison, to be here? Really?
That really is the stock question. What gives you the right? Defend your right to be here.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. First of all, let me just start on a positive note here of collaboration and unity. I met these gentlemen not long ago, and we pretty quickly realized that we were all horror movie enthusiasts. I was excited to be part of a group because there are so few of us in my personal circle of friends that can endure a scary movie nowadays. Everyone's just too weak.
They've been coddled from kindergarten.
Weak.
Well, I mean, Allison, you probably are actually closer to our own goal than we are, I think. I feel like you've watched a lot of horror movies on Netflix from what I've gathered, right?
I have. Yeah, not in alphabetical order.
Did you get to watch Zombies?
I haven't seen that one yet,
okay,
Zombies.
Well, never mind,
no.
then.
You won't soon. It's gone. But that was kind of our goalpost for a while. That was the end of the alphabet.
Yeah.
And,
I was very excited about it.
Yeah.
No one else was, though.
What are some of your recent favorites? Like, if you're going to go, watch a horror movie for comfort, what would you pick?
For comfort.
For comfort, right? If you like horror movies.
Such an oxymoron, except for people like us.
Yeah,
who get
exactly.
It. Horror movies for comfort. Let me think about that one.
We did talk about The Strangers earlier.
Yeah, we did talk about The Strangers. That is one of I did tell my boyfriend after I finished watching it and crawled into bed and woke him up and said, "Hi, are you awake? Are you awake? Now you are. Join me." I said it's one of my top 10 favorites, which I think is a revolving list. I don't think it's ever the same. But The Strangers scared the shit out of me.
That's actually on Netflix now, so
yeah.
Plug for that.
Bonus
points for Nate picking one that's on Netflix.
I saw it first in 2008, and my daughter was a month old, and I was home alone with her in an old house that had a front door that never got used. It was used as a storage area, and we used the side door instead. That will be important in a moment. She and I
Was it an ornate wooden door with no windows and no way to see through it?
It totally was. It was a Victorian house. It was old. There was a foyer that my stroller and other things were blocking the door, but
foyer.
It was a foyer.
I love that word.
Or as I call it, a foyer.
Or a foyer if you're just basic. So I was watching the movie. I was up. My sleep schedule was off because I had an infant, and it was probably 2 a.m. And I was pretty well into the movie, and I heard a loud knock, 5 raps at the front door that no one ever used.
Fuck.
At 2 o'clock in the morning with an infant. The most vulnerable position I think you could be in as a young woman and a helpless child. Mm-hmm. And I was terrified. I didn't answer the door. I paused the movie and shit my pants. And my daughter probably shit her pants because she was a month old.
This is getting a bit more detail than I signed up for.
Anyhow.
Diapers were changed.
Diapers were changed,
at the
exactly.
expense of the stranger.
Body horror here.
But did you go back and finish the movie?
I did.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You're
diehard.
I'm diehard. I'm a glutton for punishment. So that's my story with Strangers. I rewatched it the other night. I was terrified again. And that's one of my favorites.
That's one of those movies that you just don't want something to fall over in your house while you're watching it.
No.
Well, let alone somebody rapping 5 times on your fucking door at 2:30 in the morning.
Rapping on your door.
No. Yeah. Some others. I don't know. I like a lot of. What's the movie I asked you if you saw? It's foreign. Just came out.
Train to Busan.
Scariest movie. It's a girl's Veronica.
Movie.
Veronica was great.
Oh, yes.
I thought it was great.
Haven't seen it
I
yet.
don't know if I saw. There's a lot of movies, horror movies lately with female names.
There's nuns or something.
As titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty Catholic based. It's in Spanish. It's gritty.
I have not seen it yet.
It's good.
I saw that. It's like based on a real case, right?
It is.
And it's like set in the 80s?
Maybe 90s.
It seemed like a little, like it was, maybe 90s.
You know, and it's in a foreign country, so it's hard to like timestamp, I feel, sometimes.
But so you're on the up and up.
I'm on the up and up.
Keeping up with what's going on in horror.
Does anyone else secretly kind of love those like Conjuring movies?
You're in the right place. You are in the right place because I am...
Chris is like a fucking Christmas tree right now.
I'm a militant fan of all the spooky James Wan movies, Insidious, The Conjuring.
He pounds the pavement campaigning for those movies.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I
go
saw him
door
yesterday downtown Monroe dressed as a nun.
Excuse me, ma'am. Do you have a moment to talk about James Wan?
Oh, God. That would have been a great viral campaign. They send 2 nuns door to door, and one of them's a normal old lady, and the other one's the nun behind the veil.
Oh, God.
But the one that's the nun is behind the other one,
right?
So you can't
so it's
see her.
Hi, do you have a minute to talk about? And then the other one's
the first one ducks down.
Well, someone explain this to me though, because I don't remember the nun. The nun was not in the first Conjuring.
No, you
haven't.
Right? Well, all right. Patrick has been bogarting my Conjuring 2 Blu-ray.
When you just come over, okay, so if you have a kid and you come over and you're like, hey, will you take care of my kid? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take care of your kid. And you leave your kid at my house for a fucking year. I haven't bogarted your kid.
That's basically what you did. I don't think it's morally defensible.
I'm going to call Child Protective Services. I don't like the sound of this at all.
But yeah, so I loaned him The Conjuring 2 a year ago. He hasn't watched it yet. And now he has the audacity to ask me to explain The Nun to him.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to do it or what?
I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
There's a place in the horror movie genre for those movies. I mean, no denying it.
Yeah, they're. I didn't coin this term, but I've heard them described it. Maybe it was Steven who coined this term, or maybe he read it somewhere. Kitchen sink movies. You know, it's like everything that's spooky and bumpy.
Oh yeah,
it's great. Put it all in one movie.
There was nothing in The Conjuring.
You know what a kitchen sink movie is? The Boys in the Tree.
Yeah,
actually,
Jesus, it's about
true.
time we segue to that.
Yeah, by the way, this movie, the movie we're watching this week is Boys in the Trees.
BOYZ, right?
No, it's
No.
BOYS.
Boys in the Trees.
I wish.
In THA trees.
So, all right, we'll talk about the actual movie now. Boys in the Trees. But first, we got to clear the air on something because we talked about this last week when we were previewing it, and one of you told me that this was going to be, what's the term for a gay film?
It's very confusing.
They call him a dick pic.
I heard about this movie because Katie Reif at the AV Club wrote for a list of the 10 best movies of 2017 we didn't review on the site. And she said it has...
That is extremely generous.
She said it has an LGBTQ subtext. So I went into this movie expecting that, and that's probably why I spent 2 hours waiting for 2 of the characters to kiss and was severely disappointed when it didn't happen.
Absolutely. This is why I like to read nothing about these movies before I watch them, because I was expecting these guys to kiss the whole movie, and there's a subtext there if you're looking for it.
It almost happens.
They wrestle.
Yeah, it almost
seductively.
I liked knowing that going in because
I was turned
otherwise I would have been extremely bored with this movie, and that knowledge... or false knowledge led to some of the most erotic tension I've seen in a movie.
I agree. I totally agree.
But would it have been there? Did the think pieces create erotic tension for us?
No,
Yeah,
it's
I-
there.
The
The director, I think the director is gay. He made a very well-known gay movie called The Last Time I Saw Richard, which I've seen before, and I didn't know until I got an IMDb today it was the same guy. So there's definitely he wants you to feel certain things, but he's not willing to fully commit to it in the narrative.
But Stephen, Chris's question remains unanswered.
Which is what?
What do you call a gay movie?
You said dick pic? What about a dick flick?
A dick flick. Yeah.
Oh God, that's so reductive.
It is.
Well, we all understood.
It's an
what I meant.
LGBTQ film, I think.
Is it? Because I didn't have that
No, I
seed
think
planted.
I think that's the term. I'm saying that's the term Chris is looking for.
Yeah,
I would
so
say it's queer.
Allison. Okay, so Allison
Queer
didn't
is
have
queer
the
film.
seed planted. Did it strike you? Was there a gay subtext to you in this movie?
Maybe at 1 or 2 moments, but nowhere throughout the movie.
Okay.
And I don't think it hit me until pretty well into the film that there might be something here. But I didn't read it that way at all.
Because the 2 leads, they have
a very intimate relationship for two heterosexual boys.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have a lot of feelings.
And they have a lot of feelings. And there's also a girl who's interested in one of them who gets no traction from the guy for like a significant part of the film.
And she's cute.
Yeah. So
No
lots of things added up.
She was frustrated.
Yeah.
She was frustrated.
Well, she was frustrated because he was being a piece of shit.
He was being
but
a
he was
teenage
definitely
boy.
interested in
Yeah,
her,
I was
would
going to
say.
say
Well-
he was behaving pretty naturally.
All right, we'll get to that. But Boys in the Trees, it takes place on Halloween night
In Australia.
in Australia,
Australia.
which is interesting. And I love a movie that takes place on Halloween night.
Me too.
There aren't enough of them.
And it,
We're watching 10 of them right now. And I could do without all 5 of the ones I've seen so far. By the way, guys, we are watching every Halloween movie ever, and we're reviewing them all in a single episode coming soon, sometime in October, to commemorate the new Halloween movie and the 40th anniversary of the Halloween franchise. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled
happy
programming.
100 years, Michael Myers. Thanks for all the slashing and bashing.
Well, I mean, I think the success of the first Halloween movie largely is because it takes place on Halloween.
Doesn't look like
Hocus
it.
Really?
Pocus. I mean, come
Hocus
on.
Pocus?
The success is because of the day it's set on.
I don't know. I think it's a
It's
contributing
fucking
factor.
called Halloween. I mean, I'm sure that drew people in. They're looking for that atmosphere of the 31st of October, you know?
It's a seductive date.
The point is, there's a lot of movies where you have spooky stuff happening.
It's a sexy number.
Okay.
1031.
For freaks like us, it's a seductive date. I don't know. It's like the best day of the year for me.
It is.
And
This
Halloween is
Christmas
actually,
for me.
I'm so excited because it's fall now. It's September. Well, it's not fall technically, but it feels like fall. It's September. And there's a push this year, I'm feeling, where people are trying to get Halloween started
Yes.
in September.
I mean,
agree.
you say Halloween and the genitals just start tingling.
Mine do.
Swollen pants.
Swollen pants. Wow. All right, so
Holy
what we get with this
Okay.
movie, Boys in the Trees, is we've got a young lad with a beautiful mane of hair. What's his name?
Jonas.
Our lead? No, Jonas is the younger boy who we're introduced to later.
Corey.
Corey.
Wow, you are good with names.
And it is Corey. I remember.
Well, except when she thought Corey's name was Jonas.
But she knew
Except
those were
a
both
minute ago
names.
when
I didn't remember either
completely
name,
got
so
that
you're
wrong.
much better than
I
I
was
am.
prepared. I was fully prepared to call these guys like little kid with the hoodie and skater bro the whole episode.
I was prepared to call Corey young Tom Hardy meets young Heath Ledger because that's what I
Sick
thought of the
notes.
whole movie.
Oh. Anyway, Steven.
So it's Corey's last year of high school. He's thinking about going to college in New York, and we catch up with him hanging out with his dirtbag friends. They come home with him.
His little hood rat friends.
His little hood rat friends.
Django
as our
and the boys.
friend Craig Finn would say. Django. I love that name, Django. I expected it to be like DJ.
Yeah, no.
But no.
I expect him to have a little son named Boba.
But they're just kind of hanging out. It's Halloween. They come to his house. They raid his nerdy dad's liquor cabinet. Dad seems a little disappointed that some mail has come from a New
I
York
love that
University.
dad.
Dude, give the dad some credit. That poor man.
Dad, poor man. I felt
yeah.
that too. So a lot of it's kind of a hangout movie for quite a while. It's just like we're kind of taking in Halloween and seeing how these young people behave. And Corey's friends are, they're dirtbags. They're bullies. They're very misogynistic. They like to throw around the fag word a lot.
The fag word.
and particularly they like to bully this little boy named Joseph. He's not a little boy. Is he supposed to be?
He's the
30?
same age.
He's a late bloomer, but he's like only a year younger, if that.
Yeah.
I
So
think he's the same age.
I think he's supposed to be. And there are a few encounters with him as they're skating around, and they kind of knock him down and whatever. And it turns out Corey has a history with this kid, this fellow student, and we spend a lot of the movie entering into a fantasy realm with them as they explore their fears and dreams and some
Regrets.
unsettling events from their past.
And it's interesting the way you find out that they have a past, because at first you would assume that it's just a kid that they bully all the time. Like,
Sure.
you don't realize right away that there's actually a relationship and a history between these two, which is sort of, I thought that was well done, the way that was sort of slowly revealed.
Yeah, it's slowly revealed.
Indeed.
What's the name of the fantasy world that they go to?
Cocytus.
Cocytus.
And it's a game that they're playing.
They're playing a game called Cocytus, which is actually named for the last ring of hell, where the traitors go to freeze in the ice in Dante's Inferno.
Oh, you have
I read that it was
research, my friend.
I read that it was like a tributary, like a river that led into Hades.
Oh, no.
Maybe
That's
it's
what
both.
Wikipedia. Yeah, it's probably both.
Well, if you maybe both.
The mythology of this film is vague, if nothing else. I think there are a lot of like poetic broad strokes. I don't know if it matters really what that particular term means.
I mean, one thing's for sure: there is no game called Cocytus. I looked that up. That's
Sure,
completely
of course
created
you
for the
played this
movie
game
and
as-
never explained what that is.
Because I wanted to play.
They played this game as boys, and basically they walk around town and tell each other ghost stories or fairy tales, and they kind of come to life around them. And there seems to be kind of like a lesson to be learned or like a secret desire expressed in each one of them. And while they're doing this, Corey's bullshit friends are running around trying to find them, so they consider him a traitor, and they're trying to continue to pummel poor little Jonas and ruin his Halloween.
Right, because Corey started his Halloween hanging out with his dirtbag friends, the girls that hang out with them, all this stuff.
I prefer the term bullshit friends. That's my favorite iteration so far. Bullshit friends.
Well, yeah, he comes to realize that his dirtbag friends are kind of bullshit friends, and so he just kind of goes off on his own little odyssey. He comes across little Jonas, and then they form an unlikely fellowship to cross town and take each other home and tell ghost stories along the way. It kind of reminded me of the Warriors.
Oh, whoa. I never thought of that comparison, but I like it a lot.
Because you got these guys, and their objective is to walk across town to get home, and they're being chased by these like maniacs in like crazy costumes and encountering all these freaky things, and it's a stretch, but it reminded me of it a little bit.
Well, so the way that they ended up taking this walk together was that Corey severely offended Jonas by making a joke about his dead mother.
Oh, right.
And then he owed him one. I'm using
Right.
quote fingers. He owed him one. And Jonas said, to repay me for that shitty thing you just said, you can walk me home.
And by the way, we're playing Cocytus.
And by the way,
bitch.
I have an agenda.
Yeah.
Because Jonas is sassy. Like, I mean, he gets beat up, he gets bullied, but also he is a little smartass.
He's a great
And
skateboarder, too. Like, could they not just have been nice to him? And, like,
I don't know anything about skateboarding,
What a bummer.
so I can't really rate.
He totally
but
eats shit, though. I mean, that's kind of how Corey...
he did. He was
Because he gets
startled.
drunk, right? Like, we see him by the river putting his mask on and
Right.
drinking, like,
Yeah,
fucking
like a
whole
bottle of whiskey.
bottle of Jack, which he gets so drunk he throws it down, and then later we see him, like, break the fucking nose of his skateboard and hit
Right.
the ground.
Which
And in
isn't
that
easy to
moment,
do, by the
When I
way.
saw his head hit the back of the ground, I'll say, I thought, that's quite an injury to sustain, and he seemed to bounce back from it pretty quickly.
Yeah, even
And-
though he gave him a good scare by pretending he was concussed.
Jonas almost had to give him mouth to mouth.
Right.
God, I mean-
oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
The tension.
There's something there. There's a subtext there, but I thought it was going to be more in the text.
It's not very well articulated.
Did they come up with Cocytus, or were they referencing a game that two little girls started? Because I think that's worth mentioning. The two little girls who were sisters who played the game Cocytus, and they fantasized that they were princesses, and their knights would come and rescue
yes.
them. And there were some boys in the memory, or in the, what are we calling that?
Fantasy.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm not sure how to
Vision.
describe it.
Flashback that
Yeah.
they were having of the origination of the game manifesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a living flashback.
A living flash. There we go.
I sort of
I
forgot
like
about that. Yeah, because we never really quite get context on what that is or who those people are.
So
right?
the sisters, there's a younger sister and an older sister, and the older sister gets the attention of the knights, the boys who come and happen upon their game, and the older sister sort of abandons the game for these boys, and the younger sister is left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger sister is sort of then wandering off alone, lonely, and ends up in the pipe, right? In the sewer pipe. And that was part of their ghost story that they were telling.
Right.
You
But
can't turn on the light or you'll see the ghost.
right.
There's a series of ghost stories that... Who's the little one?
Jonas.
Jonas. Who's the older one?
Corey.
All right.
Just remember, my name is Jonas.
Yeah.
I think I said that backwards a minute ago. Jonas tells Corey he's trying to psych him out, on this whole thing. He's telling, and these ghost stories are getting under Corey's skin in a way unbecoming of like a 18-year-old man, but
in a way that feels like there's more to the story than we understand as the viewer, right? That there might be something personal that it's reminding him of.
Well, it actually kind of is, because the subtext in these stories is they're all stories about kind of existential issues and...
Right, like the one about the guy who, like, leaves his dreams behind.
He left his dreams behind.
Who sits in front of the TV,
and then
right.
his dreams come back to get him.
The horror...
Yeah, but we find out who that is.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should
do we? I don't know who it is.
I have the quote.
Yeah, it's Jonas's... it's Jonas's dad, remember? Because we see his dad through the window of his house, and he's, like, in his chair, like, fucking zombie out.
I thought it was just I thought that was just
it's like me every night.
I thought that was just recalling the motif. I didn't think that it was literally the same character, but
well, yeah, I think it's Jonas making up a
Chris.
story, like he's making up a fantasized, like a higher fantasy kind of
his
version
own
of his own, his dad's story.
So to quote Jonah, he says the price of growing up is losing one's dreams, and that forgotten dreams can be vengeful. That's why he doesn't ever want to grow up.
Yeah, these kids talk like...
I was just going to get to this.
Like, I don't... You describe it, Steven.
Okay, one thing I will say about this movie is it feels very YA. Like, in, like, the best possible way. Like, the dialogue outside of these fantasy sequences, like, I love that the kids are just calling each other dickheads and, just, like, faggot and whatever. Like, it feels, like, natural. This is how kids talk. But when we get into these fantasy sequences, it's so, like, high school drama club. Like, I just read Midsummer Night's Dream for the first time.
Yeah.
It drove me
like
nuts.
Overly eloquent.
So cringeworthy and, like, pretentious and, like, I feel like there were so many, these characters have so many like false epiphanies because of these ridiculous lines they're feeding each other.
Well, Corey's whole trajectory of his like maturity and his epiphanies that he had over the movie were outstanding. It was a whole young adulthood's worth time in just
a lot.
In 100 minutes.
In Halloween
it was
night.
Like, wow, everything I wanted for him happened. It was like
unlike A Christmas Carol. Or The Halloween Tree is the thing I kept thinking of. I don't know if you guys saw the Halloween Tree cartoon or read the book as kids.
No.
It's very similar to that, where there's like a lot of growth in a very short span of time in one night. But I don't know, something about this, the pacing of this movie and the loftiness of the revelations these characters needed to have, it just felt far too out of reach for people this young.
I agree.
Well, I think if you're going to take that fairy tale, fable-ish kind of approach, I mean, you're right about A Christmas Carol or whatever, but you kind of have to set up that framework and set up that world in which that makes sense, and this for the first maybe 20-30 minutes of very slow character development just feels like kind of a cool skater movie about skater kids in the 90s, and then we take this hard left turn into actually A Christmas Carol is a really good analogy to make, and it doesn't mesh.
It didn't bother me because they frame it within the context of this game, Cicadas, on Halloween night, and they gave me enough to believe that, Halloween night, creepy, weird, magical stuff can happen if you believe, And we don't really explicitly know what is real and what is imaginary and what's a metaphor, but it worked well enough for me. I do agree it was pretentious and
it bothered me a little bit. It bothered me once I saw the direction we were going in, and I thought there was no preface for this.
Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's suddenly
keeps happening. You don't really know how you're supposed to feel or where we're at any point during this movie.
Well, and I think that's what you get with a smaller, time screenwriter than a Guillermo del Toro who can pull that off. Like
oh my God,
beast.
if he made this movie.
I mean, let's think about that. Like Pan's Labyrinth meets Boys in the Trees is like blowing my mind right now,
Like, I mean, they're literally about to cross a creek, and all of a sudden, I literally ran it back when they're about to cross that creek, and they're talking about Cicadas for the first time and reciting whatever rhyme and some sort of thing that explains the rules of this game that we've never heard about up to this point. I literally ran it back and was like, wait, what are you talking about? It just comes out of fucking nowhere, and then we're off into this kind of crazy fantasy world.
Yeah,
I
like that. I like that because it's the theme that the kid talking about not wanting to grow up. He's trying to stay young in this make-believe world where they don't have the cynicism of, it's just a creek in the woods, just jump over it. They're actually opening themselves up for this spiritual
and
magic spooky journey.
He didn't have a great life, so it makes sense that he would want to stay in this youthful ignorance, for lack of a better word. His mom died, we learned.
Yeah. He's been picked on, at least.
He's definitely been bullied. Yeah.
He's kind of my hero. I want to say a personal...
Jonas?
Yeah. My personal anecdote, I mean, I had a friend when I was younger who is now no longer with us, but we would play games like this when we were kids, and we would sort of invent worlds and languages and stuff. And I often think of him when I sort of get off track and become cynical and think, like, where would he want me to be? How would he want me to feel and behave now? Like, I want to, make him proud in memory, at least. So on paper, I should have loved this movie. It speaks to a huge part of my inner life. As a movie, I don't think it works. It's beautiful. I mean, the cinematography is great, but I have a hard time kind of following the trajectory of, like, we're in, like, sort of the teenage skateboard world, and now we're in the fantasy world, and now we're jumping back, and we're in the convenience store. It just felt haphazard.
I could have done without the constant going back to the garbage friends raising hell on their bicycles and stuff.
Can we talk about Django a little bit? Because he was the leader of the garbage friend pack. Yeah. And I feel like we've all had a Django.
Kids.
We've all had a Django. I'm using quote fingers again.
Yeah.
But like, I'm interested to pick your brain as men, as boys in the trees at one point in your life. Did you guys have a Django? Like,
absolutely. I had like 5 Djangos at once at one point in my life.
I think every friend group of men is gonna have the guy who is like, at least has everyone convinced that he's the cool one who like knows more shit than you do, and he's gonna set the agenda for what we're gonna do tonight.
Yeah. What do we think was the dynamic between he and Corey? Because if I had to go down, if I'm looking through the lens of it's an LGBTQ,
I was going to say go down indeed.
Yeah, I think if I'm now looking through that lens, I can totally make a case for there being some, like sexual tension or attraction between that Django feels for Corey. He doesn't want to lose him to New York. He doesn't want him to go to college. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's like psychologically makes sense that if his friend out, performs him, he feels inferior, and then, he's forced to take a look at himself. But it did feel, now that I'm going down the rabbit hole of that, maybe there was some other stuff there too.
I think even if I remove that AV Club article from my mind, I was thinking a lot about that in this movie, because I've had friendships like that, especially in high school, where it's like, because I'm gay, it felt like there might be sexual tension that was never discussed. And there's definitely kind of the issue of sort of outperforming male competition. This movie seemed to want to have it both ways, but we never explicitly find out what our protagonist's sexual leanings are. I mean, like, he seems to be interested in this girl, but like, even after they fuck, which does happen later in the film, it's kind of tenuous, I felt.
I think that's because of the emotional... I don't know. I had no real question about his sexuality.
He was so pretty, though. Can we all agree that he's like a work of art?
Very pretty.
And
very
Django
beautiful
as well. I mean, I could do without the dyed hair, but...
Patrick.
I would...
He's just rotting from the inside out. I can't even with him.
I would say he's rotting from that, like, the blonde dye job.
Oh my God, though, in 1997, like, that's the kind of boy I would have jerked off to. Like, with the same hair and everything.
I feel like each of the last, like, how many podcasts Steven has said something about his masturbation habits.
I'm learning a lot.
So much more than we wanted to know about how Steven jerks it.
For the record, I didn't...
AMA.
I want to know all about how you jerk it, because I'm just curious.
Like the method?
No.
We're going to put that behind a paywall on our website.
Become a Patreon. Patron on Patreon.
I didn't pick up any...
Become a Patreon.
I didn't pick up any gay subtext with Django specifically. If you saw it, then cool. I'm not going to deny.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing: is that there could have been, like, you could exploit that in an interesting way. The relationship between those two characters, like, there is ample gay subtext to be.
And the rest
I don't want to say exploited, because I don't think I think you could do it without being exploitative, but there's all kinds of shit going on with these characters where there are really strong male bonds that they don't want to lose, and they could be figuring out a lot of sexual stuff at the same time. And it would be a much more interesting movie.
And Django reminded me of a controlling boyfriend, like a lot of times. I was like, I know guys like that who are like, no, you're not going to college in New York. You're staying here, going to the community college with me, and we're going to both suck at life together.
And it's because he can't admit it, but he loves Corey.
He does love Corey.
Maybe not in a romantic way,
right.
But
this is the writer's room right now. We're writing like Boys in the Trees, the director's cut that the director wishes he was like,
together. Fuck, I didn't even think of that.
Oh, my only issue... No, I'm confident he did think of that. My only issue with this movie is in the pacing. Because otherwise, I love that, like you said, Patrick, at that age, you've got so much shit going around in your head that, like, you don't even know. And I like that it's not clear-cut. It's not feeding us, there's sexual tension between these two characters, or it's not even clear why they're sort of competing against each other.
I just had an epiphany.
Yeah?
Because I was about to say I didn't read Django as having any gay subtext to his character, but I just thought that the conflict between him and Corey. I thought the conflict between him and Corey was just a power thing. He's the alpha dog. He doesn't like insubordination. But now I'm thinking, at that age, is there a difference between the power dynamics and the sexual dynamics?
That's a blurry line.
Here's another question for you. At any age, is there a difference between sexual dynamics and power dynamics? Nope. I'll leave you with that.
No, in case you don't watch House of Cards and don't read Oscar Wilde, everything is about sex except for sex. Sex is about power.
Did Oscar Wilde say that?
According to House of Cards, but I haven't found any such
situation. Oh, that's a really funny reference of a reference.
Yeah. So.
Well, I want to say I'm very confused about something that happens later in this film and who exactly is involved in an event from the past that we learn about. And I think it might shed light on this conversation about Django's sexual awakening and where he's kind of at.
This sounds like spoiler room as fuck.
It is spoiler room as fuck. I think having said what I said, our listeners won't be able to tell what it is.
Okay.
But hold on. We see a pair of pants unzipped at one point in the movie in a very vague scene, and I've got some thoughts about it, so I'll save that for later.
All right, we'll get to that in the spoiler room.
Here's kind of a broad topic, but there's a lot to talk about here. Music and music video direction.
Fucking awesome. The soundtrack.
The music or the music video direction?
The music, I agree, was giving me fucking life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My 80s and 90s child was just indulging.
They're watching, like the first scene where we see Corey bring his friends home, they're watching the video for Lump by President of the USA, and one of the kids is like badly hitting the drums along to it. That reminds me of my cousins when I was that age. They'd do the same thing. They'd put on like a Ween album or Beastie Boys, and like they had a drum kit and they would just badly play along with it.
That scene felt beautifully real in terms of just the way that like teenage boys hang out.
Sure, and there's like kind of you get a sense of unfortunately it's kind of wasted because we don't see too much of some of the peripheral members of the gang, but we see how they all kind of interact, like how the pack...
Periffs.
The periffs. We see kind of how the pack works when it's like isolated, and like, there's two that like love to hang out with each other and sit on the bed, and there's like the guy who's playing the drums, and there's the guy who's on the computer.
Corey is a budding photographer. We should probably mention this. He's an aspiring photographer, and I think that's what he's hoping to go to college in New York for. And his dad thinks that's that's a road to nowhere, as many parents do with the arts.
Yep.
But he takes this photograph of Jonas,
right?
Jonas, yeah. My name is Jonas.
Oh, my God. Jonah. It's Jonah.
It's Jonah. My name is Jonah.
I think we've been saying it wrong the entire time.
Jonah. Oh, my God. I'm ashamed of us.
Thanks for all you've shown us.
He takes this picture of Jonah after Django has punched him in the face, and he's sort of just looking bewildered and defeated, and he's got a bloody nose, and this picture later gets circulated around town.
Yeah, to no effect.
That's debatable. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely a horrendous crime. They're antagonizing this guy.
A crime against photography. That shot was shit.
The shot was total shit.
The shot was great.
That's a great shot to catch somebody in a vulnerable moment like that so clearly. It was awesome.
Right, and I'm thinking
Great job.
I'm thinking that Jonah's gay, which raises the stakes of this because he was gay bashed and punched in the face and given a bloody nose, and now the photos all over town.
But I love how Django sort of wins over Corey's sense of ego when Django confronts him about seeing this paperwork to go to college in New York, and he says, you know, what the fuck, dude? Like, what are you too good for us? You know, the typical, you know.
Yeah.
And Corey throws it away and said, it's not a big deal. It was just an idea. And then Django realizes he's offended him. Corey's in his dark room developing this picture or these pictures that he's taken. And Django comes in and sort of sweetens him up. And he sort of strokes his ego and says, this is your money-making shot right here.
And again, with the LGBTQ themes that I was expecting because of shit I'd read, I was thinking this was going to be like a Vicky Cristina Barcelona moment. If anybody's seen that shit.
I have.
Been a while.
There's some.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Which could have also been on the soundtrack, but it wasn't.
It's that year.
Not angry enough.
Since I could hold my head up high.
That doesn't need to go any further.
Anyway, go on.
Oh, there's just some sexy shit that happens in a dark room in Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Oh, well, actually, I thought there was conflict in that because he's saying, "Oh, this shot here, this is good shit," and my feeling was that Corey was kind of repulsed by the whole thing. I mean, he's definitely at least conflicted by it because we find out that he actually has a relationship with this kid, and he took the picture kind of because he didn't know what else to do, and he was like not okay with the moment.
Well, and I think at the moment it could be argued that it was an artistic sort of depiction of life.
Yeah.
But I don't think, if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I don't think he foresaw what the fate of that picture would be, that it would be so widely circulated and then it would be used as like hate propaganda against this kid who's like pretty harmless.
Right. And that's kind of a theme with these characters between Corey and Jonah, right?
Can we just write it on the wall somewhere that we
need
can
a
all
whiteboard.
That's kind of a recurring theme where, you know, Corey didn't mean to hurt Jonah, but he did, and you know, that's kind of something that happens a lot between the two of them.
And it was at the insistence of Django that he sort of prove himself, right? Prove yourself that you're tough and prove that you're without emotion, sort of. And he complied.
Mm-hmm. And that actually kind of ties back into the music conversation we started to have.
I was going to circle it back at some point.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Forgot we were going there.
It's all good. It goes every which way.
Like this movie. I mean, it just...
yes.
It's a little bit ADD. It just kind of, you know, works at it.
I have the soundtrack pulled up right now.
Oh, yeah. Will you refresh my memory? Because the only things I remember are Presidents of the USA and Rammstein, which...
Beautiful people.
Marilyn Manson.
I freaked out because I hadn't heard that since,
Dude,
like,
it was,
1997.
I was glad to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie.
too.
And I had the subtitles on, so I was like, I could sing every word.
I grew up in a fucking bubble, so
beautiful
none of this shit means anything.
Really?
I don't have the nostalgia associated with it, yeah.
You were like a pure child, and we were just tainted by hate
where
and
were you
darkness.
in 1997? Like,
I was
geographically?
growing up in New York.
Oh, New York. Okay, so you didn't have 89X.
Sorry, what?
89X.
But you probably had
the radio station. I get it.
You probably had another Cumulus station in your area that was playing the same shit.
I had a lot, yeah. And I gravitated toward this dark. I was a dark ass kid from early on.
Dark ass.
Oh, I was.
She couldn't have had 89X was the only new rock alternative.
There were no others.
Oh,
There were
according to the tagline.
Yeah, that's literally how they build it. But it was all this stuff. It was live. It was
Bush.
Allison, you think you had rock alternative in New York?
Probably not. New York is a pretty soft around the edges kind of place. We have Garbage, Rammstein, 311, Soundgarden, White Zombie, Metallica, Offspring, Tori Amos Live, Smashing Pumpkins.
Tori Amos. Every time I hear Tori Amos, I think it's Kate Bush. When I heard that song at the end, I was like, oh my God, did they actually license the Kate Bush? No, it's got to be Tori.
You don't know Caught a Light Sneeze by Tori Amos?
I didn't know that song until this
Why aren't you an angry feminist from 1994? How dare you?
In 1994, I was 6 years old.
Here's a relevant question.
God.
Bullshit.
I was 10.
Oh, yeah, I guess you were.
Why is this fucking movie set in 1997?
My guess is because the director grew up in 1997 and he wanted to make something that reflected his growing up.
That makes sense.
It's simultaneously kind of timeless, but also very rooted in time. And I like that. This movie has this duality about it. Like, Is it reality? Is it fantasy? Is it, hope or fear or, whatever? There's a lot of like sort of twisted stuff going on. I appreciated that. It kind of had to have been made like right before Stranger Things hit too. This is also like kind of a revival of like the Stand By Me, like boys on bikes sort of thing. I think you only see one car in this whole movie, and it's toward the end.
Dude, that's totally a genre, boys on bikes.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be a thing.
No, there's Super Dark Times. There's that Summer of '84 movie that's coming out that looks like very Stranger Things.
E.T.
E.T., absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Have there ever been more boys on bikes?
Original golden era bulls on bikes.
We need girls on bikes. We need paper girls.
Paper girls.
Now and then. Hello.
What's now and then?
Oh my god.
Oh, I know. I've never seen it, but that's on my. I want to have like a chick flick night and watch that movie.
It is so epic, and I hate that word so much, but I couldn't think of another one.
The cast is insane.
It's so good.
What is it?
It's a coming of age movie that they deal with girls in a group of friends at a young age, and then they flash forward to them as adults, and they all come back for the birth of one of their children, and it's just.
Are they on bikes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
So many bikes.
Is it recent?
No, that was like mid-90s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was mid-90s when everything good was made.
Is Winona Ryder in it?
Yeah, I think she is.
She's not. Rosie O'Donnell.
Andy McDowell?
No. Rosie O'Donnell.
I'm just naming all the likely stars of this film.
No.
It's like that the Robin Hitchcock song Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, it's a great movie.
And sometimes
Girls
it's
on
Andy
Bikes.
McDowell.
Girls on Bikes is the thing.
Chris desperately wants us to get back on track right now, so go ahead, Chris.
It's good to see a YA type movie that doesn't have a shit ton of cell phones in it.
Any.
No cell phones. They didn't exist. So yes, hey, why does this movie take place in 97? I don't care. It was nice to see something different.
Because they were so present.
Yeah. It's, you don't want to be playing Cocytus.
That's kind of what it's
having
working
like
for.
HQ trivia giving me notifications.
You can't enter the realm of fairy if you're distracted.
Guys,
I agree.
I'm not
focused.
joking. Halloween's coming up. Halloween night. Let's fucking go for a walk with no phones and tell each other stories.
Right.
Yes, I'm
Let's
down.
ride bikes.
Bikes? Cocytus?
I feel like Chris is doing this just for the show, but
No, he's serious.
I'm
I can
serious.
tell.
we're holding this.
We're going to go to some
we're holding
creepy
you to
places.
this.
Wait a minute. Please, this is so up my alley. Where have you guys been all my life?
Yeah,
In Ann Arbor.
let's go. We're gonna have a
I
little.
have such square friends. I'm now learning.
We're gonna drink wine coolers in the cemetery.
Yes,
Oh,
we're going to
yes.
every
Smoke
cemetery.
cloves.
Smoke cloves.
Yes.
Have a seance. Bring a Ouija board.
I've
No,
got
that's
a Ouija
fucked up.
board.
No, I'm not touching that fucking thing. It's bad.
I'll bring my new
I'm
tarot
down.
deck.
I'm down for the Ouija board.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be great.
Want to hear a quick piece of horror movie trivia?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is it about Ouija Origin of Evil?
Is it trivia? I don't think it's trivia. My grandfather was college roommates with the young priest, Father Karras, in The Exorcist.
No way.
I thought you
He
were
goes, we used to play bridge together. That's fantastic.
That's cute.
That's great.
Wait, was he a real priest?
No.
No.
No,
The
but
actor
they
who
went to
played the
Jesuit
priest.
college together, so he was definitely Catholic.
So he was friends with the actor.
So
who
he was a
played the
believer.
priest.
My bad. He was college roommates with the actor who played the priest,
Okay,
Father Karras.
The young priest, not Max von Sydow, but the other one.
I haven't seen.
But they did go to Jesuit college, so
long.
that was not an outlandish question.
My uncle went to college with the young Pope.
Also known as Jude Law.
I wish. But yeah, but that's, the horror in this movie is the horror of your mind. And it's the horror of wondering if...
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, no, because that's really... Is this a scary movie? Like, hardly. There's a couple, mild
He's like Vincent
spooks.
Price right now.
Should we talk about the scene in the school? Because I think that was noteworthy.
Sure.
So Jonas and Corey end up on the roof of their school, and there's some birds that are dying.
Oh yeah.
Right? That was
Yeah,
weird.
there's pigeons roosting up there.
Yeah.
And Jonah assures us, the reason they're roosting up here is because they're dying. They know they're going to die.
And no one should die alone.
So I come up here to visit them while they're dying.
You know-
Whatever. Kind of weird, but whatever.
If you've ever wondered how symbolism fucking works, if you ever had a problem like getting a grasp on symbolism, watch the
is a
fucking
primer.
Boys in the Trees,
This is a primer.
because it spares no expense in just pointing with a big red fucking arrow to every single symbol, and also explaining to you what it means. If you're wondering what it means, it'll tell you. Not once, not twice, but
symbolism
like at least
for the hearing
times.
impaired.
Did you like how Jonah wears his Halloween mask on the back of his head, like Janus, the Roman god who looks forward and backward at the same time?
Shit. Actually, that's kind of dank. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I did notice when he took off his wolf mask and like stomped it on the ground and dramatically skateboarded away after we've been talking about wolves and wolves chasing little boys and how wolves are the
predatory
personification of
The
predation
most subtle
and evil
thing in
the
this
film.
movie is the imaginary gay subplot that we all read into it.
Well, and he referred to the wolves as like men who had matured to the point of puberty. Right? He made a reference to having not reached like puberty yet, and all the other boys who had reached puberty were the wolves.
I felt like I was listening to a Pink Floyd album. Like, just the like the metaphors just beating into you. Like, okay, I get it.
It's another brick in the wall.
They're wolves.
So he was bullied in school, and Corey obviously chose a different path. He wasn't bullied. He was potentially a bullier.
Right.
A bully.
A bullier.
And there's a good conversation
You want to be
he
fancy
has.
about it.
There's a good conversation he has with the 7-Eleven girl who has an unusual name. Romany, right? Where they kind of get at that. Where, like, he never made it this... He, like, still sees himself as a good guy, and he sees his friends are assholes, but he doesn't really think he's like them. But he kind of comes to realize that, yeah, he kind of is, you know.
She helps him to realize, as many of us women help you boys in the trees along. You're a participant here. You're not just standing by.
Thank you for doing that for Patrick and Chris.
Thank you for thanking me.
You are doing the Lord's work.
Thank you for thanking me. You are who you hang with. You know, you're guilty by association, whether you like it or not.
And that's why I say you make
That's
fun
one
of me,
of the
but
messages
that's
of this movie,
that's
for
the
sure.
horror. That, you know, if you have to pull horror out of this, which again I think this is kind of a case of Netflix missorting its movies because they watched the first 5 minutes and they saw Halloween costumes, and they put it in horror. It's more of
Where else are you going to put it though? I mean, it's got
got
wolves,
ghosts
it's
in
got
it.
shadow
Thriller?
people.
Yeah.
Maybe a thriller.
I think even it's one reason this movie wasn't all that successful is that I think festival programmers didn't know what to do with it. Like, I don't think this played like Fantastic Fest or, you know, like the places you would think it should be because it's in this weird genre and like the people doing PR for it didn't really know how to communicate what it was about.
right.
Like, this should have, like, won, like, a GLAAD award or something, probably. but
It did win an award.
It's a movie that doesn't quite seem to know what it is.
I don't remember what the award was.
GLAAD award?
It won an award.
Oh, yeah. Best kiss that almost happens.
The spooks in this movie or whatever, the dread comes from not like, oh, a werewolf's going to get you, but it's all about yourself. And
Yeah.
Are you living up to your potential? Are you being a good person? Are you there for your friends? And we kind of see through these Christmas Carol scenes, you know, what happens if you don't. And
I'm sorry that I interrupted you.
that's fine.
Your wind up was too delightful.
I've been trying
watch.
to get that out for 15 minutes.
Well, and I like that Romany, again, I'm going to plug for the ladies here. We saw Corey look at the paperwork to go to school in New York, but Romany was the first person that actually said out loud, I want to get out of here.
Right.
Yeah, she wants to go to
She
Canada.
was thinking about her future. She wants to go to Canada.
Romany, great name, great woman.
She was a great woman.
Great woman.
And she kind of helped Corey along, like, you know, without saying any doubts you might be having about getting out of here because we're like-minded. And I can see that about you.
And she's frustrated because
She
she
is.
sees a kindred spirit in him, but he's
suppressing it.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, I think a big hope of mine was that he would pass that. Like, I think in my mind's eye, I was sort of like, take Jonah with you. You know,
Right.
Go to Canada, all three of you.
All three of you.
And
Start a
live
new
in like
life.
Oh, that would
can
be
we all
so
go to Canada?
cute.
Also, it was like too close for comfort. I don't really want to live in the United States.
Right. She wants to move to Canada. She wants to see snow of all things.
She wanted to
So I'm
see
like,
snow.
all right,
It's
give
overrated.
it one winter.
Yeah.
I want them all to come to Canada so I can visit them more easily than going to Australia.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit closer to me.
I get it.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
But I think she gave him permission to be okay with thinking a little bit bigger, and no one else in his life, including his dad, gave him permission to do that.
Dad is sweet, but he's totally holding him back. in a
Well,
big way.
and for a way that as a
Oh.
parent, I can empathize. You know, you want your kids to like live up to all their potential, but like within reason.
Well, he's a single dad, you know.
Oh, he's a sweet
He
angel
doesn't
face.
seem to have any
I just
friends.
thought it was so sweet when he was like half-heartedly low-fiving all the bullshit friends as they walked into his house and stole all the food out of his fucking pantry.
And his booze.
Yeah, oh, well, he didn't know about that, though.
No, you could, I mean, like,
he was
the
happening 3 feet away from
design
him.
in this movie was great, and that was the first scene where I really noticed it, but, like, you can hear them going up the stairs, and you can hear the booze bottles clinking, and the dad is just like, fuck it.
He's more worried about being a cool dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there for his
He was
son
pretty
than he
passive.
is-
He's like, if you can fix my printer, I don't care what the fuck
But
you
they were
did."
hiding the vodka from him. Like, it was
Right,
behind his
right.
back.
They
I don't
weren't
think he
supposed
would
to
have
be doing
improved. I don't think he would have approved.
I don't
No.
think he would have. He seemed like kind of a.
Pushover.
right.
Yeah, he wouldn't have done anything. I don't know. I like the dad. I wish I
like
could
the
have seen
dad
more
so
of him.
much.
I like
He
him.
loves him,
I
but he's
date
holding him
him.
back, kind of like Django, who you might also date.
No. Have we?
I thought you
No,
said
that was Steven.
Oh, that was Steven.
Django,
Keep our dating preferences
I will-
straight, Chris.
I will-
I winced at the
I
thought
will
of dating
date
Django.
Corey.
Ugh.
I will date Jonah/Jonas. I will fuck Django once and leave
We're
him.
playing Fuck, Marry, Kill right now. No, we're not.
Oh, yes.
No, we're not.
I
I
played
would
that
date
game
Dad.
with myself the whole time I was watching this movie.
You were like, fuck Steven, marry Steven, kill How do you play fuck, marry, kill with yourself?
No, not with myself, but like by
With the
myself,
characters
like thinking
in the
about the
movie.
characters.
I know, I was making a joke.
Oh, it was a bad joke.
We haven't explained the term boys in the trees yet, though. 'Cause
Yeah, I don't know if I understood the metaphor well enough to explain.
Well, they're all the boys are in the trees. They're just climbing trees, and people aren't afraid. What's the thing?
Oh,
They're not
afraid of fall. They're not afraid that they're going to
falling.
fall. They're afraid that they're going
oh,
to
I
jump.
love that.
Yeah.
I
That
love
resonated.
line.
Paying
I mean,
attention
People
to
with
this.
fear of heights.
I sort of liked that line.
That wasn't about the trees. That
No,
was
no,
when we
it
were talking
it
to
definitely
school.
turns into the trees too, because
Yeah, it's relevant.
he references that later while he's literally in a tree talking to Romany. Like if that whole
in a
thing
very
wasn't laid
Romeo and
out
Juliet-esque.
clearly enough. Yeah.
So what's it
Yeah.
mean if you're a boy in the trees?
That you're climbing, that you're above everybody else, that you're dangerous, that you're a risk taker. And
Or
that's what all the young boys are. That's what all the irresponsible boys are. They're boys in the trees in this movie. That's what that term
or sort
means.
of not thinking of what could happen, living in the moment,
Right.
not
Okay.
thinking of the long term, not thinking I could fall, I could jump, nothing, just
And again,
impulsivity.
Not thinking of other people, not
Actually,
being
never
able to
mind,
even
that's a
consider
spoiler.
other people's feelings too. Because you're in
Potentially.
this risky situation.
it's like so clearly explained verbally and also visually. Like it literally happens multiple times in this movie that boys wind up climbing trees.
Admittedly, I didn't grasp the metaphor they were going for, but when I was hearing the boys in the trees, because it came up at the same time as the wolf metaphor, sort of, I read it as like the boys are in the trees like the Viet Cong. And
I don't think that's related at all.
What the fuck?
like there's a pack
I almost
out there.
did a literal spit take.
There's a pack out there, and they're predatory and animalistic and childish, and you got to get them out of the trees and bring them home.
I got the impression it was a bit more like short-sightedness, like that you're idiots.
Well, this
You're
actually,
living for the moment. You're not thinking about anything in your, periphery, and you're just there being stupid.
I think the court has ruled boys in the trees not a Vietnam metaphor.
not a Vietnam metaphor, but this is a
But
movie.
Star
I think
Wars: A
would
New
definitely
Hope
benefit.
definitely is all about Vietnam. We can agree on that.
What?
Well, I think it's about that time, fellas.
Yeah, it's been like 3 hours.
I
We should
wanna-
probably
Fella and lady.
Fella and ladies, fella, you're
Thank
Rude.
you.
In
I just
my-
gave him an angry hand gesture.
in my America. You can be a fella.
No thanks.
How about a
good.
pally?
A pally. Allie the pally.
We're all a bunch of pallies.
Anyway, I want to talk about stuff that happens that would be spoilers. So it's time for view it, cue it, or screw it. Allison,
our guest.
guest of honor. Would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
So I would cue it for sure. As much as I finished the movie and it took me by surprise in good ways and not great ways, I think I don't feel really compelled to watch it again unless to pick up some nuances for research reasons. And I don't feel like I would enthusiastically recommend it to anyone.
What research reasons? I'm really curious about what
Well,
these hypothetical research
Chris
reasons would be.
Chris was like, maybe it would be worth watching again, and I think I'm always up for watching a movie twice just to get it right, but not because I'm dying to see it again. And I don't feel like it was accurately a horror movie.
Okay. I thought maybe you were researching Australian skater culture or something like that.
Or the rules for cocytus.
Or, Yes, exactly.
Well, who says I'm not? That game sounds fun as fuck.
Who is it that said
We're gonna play it next month?
I want to play it.
Who said it? Who said that the first time you see a movie is a flirt and the second time is a date?
That's accurate.
I don't know, but I kind of love that.
Yeah, that's a saying that someone said, and that's kind of how it is. You really do have to see a movie twice to kind of begin to understand it, which is something we're terrible at on this show. But
I'd say cue it.
Cue it. Wow. Okay. Same. I would cue it. I really, really appreciate what this movie aspires to be. I think looking at it through the teen lens, I'm thinking, I thought about this a lot while watching it. If I was like 13, 14 watching this movie, it may have worked as well for me as Hedwig and the Angry Inch and like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and all these like queer movies that were super important, but also a movie like Mean Creek. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but that's another movie that has like really vague sexual tension that may or may not be there. It deals with the complicated hormones of teenage boys as they're sort of trying to grow up or decide they're not going to. So I give it a cue it. It's a stylish movie. I think the throwback soundtrack adds a lot of fun to it for me as somebody who grew up listening to that kind of music. It's visually beautiful, fantastic performances, deals with the nuances of the teenage experience, especially the teenage male experience, in a really interesting way that we've managed to talk for so long and we still can't draw conclusions about what the intention was. So it provokes discussion. Check it out if this sounds interesting to you.
yeah, I totally agree. I give it a cue it as well. Solid cue it. I liked so much about this movie. I thought the performances were great. I liked the cocytus game. I thought it was an interesting way to frame the movie, even if it wasn't executed very well. I liked that it tried to be about something and had some resonant themes. My problem is it really kind of fell apart past the halfway point. It started, I think, trying to be about too many things, mixing too many of its metaphors, throwing in some crazy-ass, out-there plot twists that we'll get to in the spoiler round that I didn't think were cohesive with the rest of the movie. It was kind of how I talk about these movies where I feel like someone makes their first feature and they try to put every idea and theme they've ever had in their life into their one movie, and it doesn't really work. It kind of turns into he's just mashing his cars together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I thought about this a lot watching this movie. It does it better than most similar movies of that ilk that I've seen, though. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's all codable. It's all readable. You can understand what the intention was at least, and it looks cool and sounds cool, even if it gets a little bit mixed up.
Yeah, I might watch this again sometime in my life. I won't recommend it to anyone necessarily.
I would recommend it to like a teenager. Like if I knew like a young boy or girl in my life who was like 14, 15, kind of struggling with like the problems these characters are dealing with, but go watch this movie, especially if they love Halloween. You know, I think back to like the young me that loved like Tim Burton at that age. I would have fucking loved this movie then. It could have actually taught me a valuable lesson or two.
Patrick, cue it, view it, or screw it.
So when you started cue it, view it, or screw it tonight, you looked at me at first and I said, I don't want to go. So we went to Allison, we went to Steve, and even after I heard them give their ratings, if you went to me, I would have said, no, I want to hear you first. Because I was feeling like a swing vote, because I hadn't decided. And I still kind of feel like a swing vote, because I'm just
There's
kind
nothing
of in
at
the middle.
stake. Don't worry about it.
I'm kind of in the middle.
Well, there's a rating for that.
That's not what you guys tell me about my rating. That's not what you guys tell me about my rating on Three-Headed Shark Attack.
Wow, we're not going to go back.
No, I'm a cue it. I think this movie is either a really interesting failure or sort of an uninteresting success. It's there's a lot there. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to recommend it, but as we've already kind of described at length, there are a lot of problems as well, and a lot of stuff that just feels sort of half-formed and a little bit immature. It's an interesting movie, and if you're looking for something interesting along these lines, go for it. Cue it.
All right.
4 Gewitts. Have we ever had 4 Gewitts?
I don't think we've ever had 4 Gewitts.
There's never been such alignment of agendas.
This is history.
Yeah. Oh, guys.
I don't even think we've had unanimous Gewitts even with just the 3 of us.
Let's sing Kumbaya on the way down to the spoiler room.
So if you're intrigued, go check out Boys in the Trees on your own. Otherwise, come join us in a few seconds and we'll spoil everything, tell you about what happens to all these characters, and try to sort through all the metaphors they threw at us. See you soon. Welcome back to Every Horror Movie on Netflix. We're down here in the spoiler room about to talk about all the spoilers, all the twists, all the turns, all the mixed metaphors. It's happening now. And
it's dark down here.
Where do we even begin? It is dark.
It's
and
dark
cold down here.
Okay.
The seasons are changing. The weather, it is giving us all seasonal depression, but I do enjoy the rain and the clouds.
Guys, I was literally, no joke, no troll zone. It was cloudy today. It was cold. I was depressed all day until we started doing this, and I'm having a great time. So
I agree.
Me too, but I also felt Halloween as fuck today.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I know,
Which
but
was
November
nice.
1st, then it just sets in. What more do we have to look forward to other than eating and buying gifts for people
and playing
money I don't
Cocytus.
have?
I couldn't remember the name. I almost said Cuyahoga.
No, she said November 1st.
I know,
Cocytus gets played
Cocytus will
before
be
Halloween.
over.
We can play Cocytus every night.
We have
Cocytus
Cocytus to look forward to.
Sounds like an STI.
Yeah, it does.
My brother had cocytus.
I think it sounds like a weird form of animal sex. Cocytus.
Speaking of
The
coitus.
giraffes are performing cocytus.
Like coyotes have cocytus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they do.
All right, so what are we here to talk about?
Yeah, what
in the
happened in this
spoiler room?
movie? Was there an ending?
We've talked about this movie pretty comprehensively, but there were a couple of things that happened late in the game that are definitely worth discussing.
the general strokes are they go through the whole haunted tour and they go meet what's-her-face at 7-Eleven and she gives them some life lessons. And
Romany.
I think you need to be more specific. Romany.
She has a name.
Yep,
But some life lessons is specific enough.
Corey's in the 7-Eleven, and he gets into a fight with Django, who comes in and finally has found Corey after all night of looking for him.
Yep.
And Django tells Corey that he's basically desecrated Jonah's mother's grave and says, I want you to come photograph it.
Oh, yeah.
And Corey says, fuck that. That's just cruel, and I'm not doing that, after having some wisdom bestowed on him by Romany.
Romany's impressed as hell right
Wisdom
now.
bestowed in this movie.
Yeah, lots of that.
In almost every scene.
Corey decides he's going to come down from the trees.
Yeah, I like that. And so they get into a squabble. Django kind of wins, and Corey's on the ground, and Django offers him help, and he says, I'm done. I'm done with you. And he's had this sort of epiphany that, you're not my real people, and you don't want what's best for me, and I'm out.
This is the point at which he throws his wolf mask on the ground and stomps on it and skateboards away that I referenced earlier.
Yeah.
He motors away.
Motors away. Zips away.
So I think he leaves to find Jonah in a panic, having realized Jonah was my one true homie. And I turned my back on him in more than one way.
Yep.
And he goes to find him, and he goes to his house, and he pulls down all the shit that they threw a dead crow at his window early in the movie, and he cleans that up. And then he goes home, and he pulls back out his University of New York, which is not a real place.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
I was
University of
wondering.
New York.
I saw this movie in very poor quality because my Wi-Fi went out last night. We have shared Wi-Fi in my apartment building, so 30 minutes of the movie, it started looking like the Lego movie. And I watched it like that for 20 minutes and was like, oh, fuck it.
Did you see the Lego movie?
Yeah. So I finished it this morning. So there were certain things that details, nuances I may have missed.
Quick tangent on that, because one of the big sets in this movie is this big old drain pipe that they go down a couple times, and
It's very it.
Yes, it is very
is,
it.
yeah.
Or shit, as we called it for a while.
Stephen King shit.
But it's a good example of why I like to, watch horror movies on Blu-ray or buy them on Blu-ray, even though they're available on Netflix sometimes, because at least on my TV, and your mileage may vary, with my connection, the dark shadows of the drain pipe were all blocked up, and there was very poor detail in them, and especially there's a shot where there's a figure very subtly coming out of the darkness.
Yes.
And it was very hard to kind of appreciate that with the compression on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So watch your movies on Blu-ray if you're a horror fan. Netflix crushes the blacks.
Even in the most
blocks it out.
Even
Chris
in the
is
most
like shaking his
connections.
fist like Adolf Hitler right now.
In the
I
most
wouldn't say
ideal
like Hitler,
conditions,
but-
it's going to look like shit on Netflix. I agree.
It's a problem that affects horror movies a lot because it's usually the shadows and the dark areas of the image that suffer the most from these compression artifacts, in my experience.
Totally. Like, don't watch The Witch or The Vitch on Netflix.
Vitch.
Yeah.
Don't bother. It's on there now. Buy the Blu-ray.
Is
It's like,
The Vitch on Netflix now?
I'm pretty
Vitch.
sure it finally is.
The Vitch is back.
Yeah, no. It's coming. It's like September 17th or something.
Yeah, and
Give or
like
take.
seriously,
Very
don't
soon,
like buy it on Blu-ray. It's literally in like the $7.99 bin at Walmart. So if you could bother to bring yourself into a Walmart and shame yourself to that degree, it's better
Go to
to do
Target.
that.
Just go to
Shame
Target.
yourselves.
So he goes to find him at home. And he
On point, Allison over
Yes.
just reeling it in like Romany, guys, just keeping it real. And he goes back home. He contemplates filling out his University of New York paperwork. And then he has this sort of another epiphany and thinks, I know where he is. I've been looking for him and I know where he is. And he's in the drain pipe.
Yep.
Right. So he takes his flashlight, which prior to this, Jonah has said, you can't shine a light on the ghost of the little girl from the original Cocytus game in the drain pipe or she'll scream. And you'll remember the scream until the day you die.
And I'll be damned, he did it.
And she
and
did.
money. Yep.
Money. Yahtzee.
Yeah.
But there's Jonah, and he's there.
Yeah.
And they have, a conversation, and Jonah's sad, and he feels left out, and yada yada.
I just want to say one of the most baffling scenes in this movie to me is a Dia de los Muertos scene.
Yeah.
Which, am I wrong that it seems to be a funeral for Jonah?
Yeah. No,
No,
you're not wrong.
My memory's hazy, and I thought this is ridiculous because, okay, spoiler alert, he's been dead this whole time.
Jonah has been dead this whole time.
And I knew that from when we saw him, we saw him, spill his fucking liquor bottle and shatter, and I thought, oh, he's going to drown himself. Then we see him again when Corey catches up with him, and he has, taken a shit on his skateboard and clearly cracks open the back of his head, and I thought, well, now he's surely dead and is a ghost, and he's wearing ghost makeup, and he's leading him into this nether world, so obviously he's not been alive this whole movie, so it's shocking to me that this movie would think that we would believe otherwise.
I
but
was
there's a
surprised.
scene that is a
I was
Mexican,
surprised too.
for
You're too
whatever
smart
reason,
for us.
Yeah.
a Mexican funeral for him, and Corey still doesn't catch on
Well,
somehow.
it's a Dia de los Muertos celebration, which isn't quite the same as a funeral.
But there's a portrait of the dead, and
Right,
it's
but
a
that's what
picture
they
of
do.
him.
They set out their little luminaries and their little shrines, and they put photos of their loved ones and things that their loved ones enjoyed in their life kind of out to mark the death. But it makes no sense in this location because his body is still in the river. No one even knows that Jonah.
But there's a
is dead.
photo of him at the ceremony.
And his
is there not?
mother.
So again,
And-
we're getting into surreal shit again.
It's surreal, and
This-
it's very it reminded me of Alejandro Jodorowsky, Santa Sangre, a movie that if you guys haven't seen, you should see. It's a great Mexican surrealist film that deals. It's actually surprisingly similar to this. I'll say no more. Check it out. It's a great movie. Better than this movie.
I mean, this
And-
raises an interesting cultural question for me. I mean, we celebrate Dia de los Muertos in some communities in the U.S. Is Dia de los Muertos a thing in Australia?
Well, that's why I thought of the Halloween tree, because I don't know the answer to that question, but that seems to be a clear influence on this movie. And the Halloween tree is the same thing as this. Is like a Christmas Carol where you're going through sort of memories and fantasies, but the Halloween tree is going through, the characters are led through by this guide or a bunch of different cultural celebrations surrounding Halloween, and they learn about culture. And it feels like this scene was this movie trying to make a direct reference to that by looking at Day of the Dead, which, I don't know, are there a lot of Mexicans or Mexican immigrants living in Australia?
Halloween, the
I don't
holiday,
know.
doesn't seem like it's as big of a deal in Australia as it is in the United States.
I don't know about that. There were a few times that I was if only we decorated the streets with these, like they had corpses hanging from strings on the street. Like it was pretty elaborate, you know, as if their trick-or-treating was like turned up to 11.
But there's a joke somewhere in the movie, a reference to the origin of the holiday, or like it being an American thing.
That's true.
So I don't know. Maybe the movies have made it bigger over there. But anyway, there's this great scene, or not great scene, but interesting scene where they stumble upon this sort of Day of the Dead funeral ceremony, and the Aboriginal actor who seems to be portraying death incarnate in this white suit is singing a song by the 90s band Live. And I will say,
I know I recognize that.
It was a cool rendition.
It took me a minute, took a couple of verses. It was a cool rendition, but I'm like, of all the songs to play at your funeral, please, guys, if I were to die tonight, do not play that at my funeral.
Oh, dude, at your funeral, it's sealed. I'm getting up there and just going, it's been a while.
Sealed.
Since I could hold my head up high.
I think he said sealed.
Oh.
Not seal.
Please.
Oh, I could also get up there and be like, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-dum.
No, but we should hear a clip, because actually, like, this is a song that, I kind of... I feel embarrassed remembering even spending time listening to the song on the radio, but the version this guy sings actually sounds kind of cool.
It was beautiful.
Cool,
I wanted to hear his whole version.
All right, we'll play a clip.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, now feel it coming back again. Like a rolling thunder chasing the wind. Forces pulling from the center of the earth again.
So it's beautiful, but it did grind
What does it all mean?
It grinded the pacing to a dead stop there, and I didn't understand what it meant.
Well, and there was a moment before this that I think is worth mentioning when Jonah sees this man in white, and he's alone, and he's scared. And it's almost as if this person is following him, like, I'm going to catch up to you eventually. That seems to be the idea.
There's like an action sequence in the woods.
The first time you see him, you don't remember it.
Right.
The second time you see him,
You'll never forget.
You'll never forget.
That's what Jonah tells us.
Hashtag never forget.
Yeah.
I think that's a different hashtag for a different thing.
Okay. Oops.
Ooh.
Can we get to
this? Yeah.
Can we get to like kind of a pivotal thing that really fucking bugs me about this movie, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
We finally find out that the kind of pivotal parting of the ways between Corey and Jonah was that they got caught by a couple of older bullies when they were both kids.
Which is bad enough.
And one of these older boys ended up molesting Jonah while Corey ran away. Allison,
were they older bullies?
I have to say something.
Yeah.
The two boys in the flashback were the same boys from the flashback that the original, what's the name of the game? Cocytus. Those were the boys. Those were the knights.
Oh, from the sort of fantasy version where they were talking about two girls.
They were sort of talking about the origin of Cocytus. And these two boys were the same boys that took away the older sister from the fantasy world.
Dancing around the reality.
Oh, so
Okay,
kind of like the story
that.
about Jonah's dad.
Right.
Where they were kind of
It was
creating
rooted
a
in-
fanciful
Right.
sort of version of their reality. Oh, okay,
Well,
that's
thank
cool.
God. If this were like some of the Netflix movies we've seen, we would have had to watch an hour of them like in the library tracking down newspaper articles explaining this crime that happened 30 years ago in the drain pipe. Yeah.
Like Poltergeist too.
Like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, but my problem is that
the hard
not
left
necessarily-
turn into child rape that doesn't seem to fit the tone.
Well,
Yeah.
not just that, not even just that. I mean, sort of that,
Yeah.
but more importantly, the fact that. So, I mean, Jonah, I think, and maybe this is just my interpretation, but can we agree that Jonah is gay? I think Jonah is definitely gay.
I think I agree with that. But I think his sexuality was ever changed after that experience he had where he was raped.
Which I think is really questionable.
I can't
because
say that
that's-
he's gay.
No?
No, you're right to suspect that because I am a gay man and I did the same thing.
Well, we went in expecting a gay romance.
Right.
We went in under bad information. We had false intelligence like Iraq.
Damn it, Katie Rife.
I didn't. But I did think that his sexuality was changed and confused.
It's clear that his sexuality is ambiguous. And I think that's one of the things that makes this movie acute for me, is that I think it does accurately capture the state of confusion that boys, and sorry, Allison, but there's only one girl in this movie.
That's okay.
But it captures the state that, like, I think a lot of boys are in at this time in their lives, especially if they've dealt with trauma, and that they don't know who they are. They can't articulate it. You know, I remember saying, you know, that's so gay, or, you know, you're a fag as a kid, while still dealing with the fact that I was starting to have feelings for other boys, which didn't really come to fruition until I was probably about the age these boys are in this movie. And I like that this movie is kind of like non-committal, but it suggests it very, almost kind of artistically has forced us to make assumptions about these characters. And yet, there's no conclusive evidence.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I don't think I've seen a movie of this ilk that has been able to achieve that level of ambiguity successfully.
I think Jonah suffered so much loss, you know, his mother and then his best friend, presumably, and then he was molested. Like, he's had a hard go. And I think, I think they played a lot on, like, what could happen, you know, to a person that's gone through that experience. I don't know.
I really like what you just said, Steve. It reminds me of one of my favorite recent horror movies, The Babadook, in that this movie is kind of plays with fantasy, and it's frustrating if you're trying to make literal sense and peg things down about the characters and the circumstances. But what I'm hearing from you is that it speaks to a truth about growing up that resonates very strongly, even if it doesn't make sense plot-wise.
Yeah, I think this movie's ultimately about how, like, there's a certain point in everyone's life as a young person where they have to face a lot of really hard truths about how they got to that point. Hormones are starting to rage. You know, their sexuality is blooming. They don't know how to express it. And they have to make choices about how to go forward with that.
And that's not a uniquely gay experience.
No,
right?
not at all.
Right.
I think it's very universal. Experience. Like, these characters could have been girls. I mean, this could have been, you know, like a
girls in the grass.
Girls in the grass. Yeah, I feel like these characters, with some alterations, of course, this could have been about a group of girls, and it would have been the same thing, because there were no explicit sexual interactions.
So that movie is called #horror.
Oh, God. Don't take me back.
So they go to this really odd Dia de los Muertes ceremony, and they say, let's get out of here. And they run, and they find a safe place in this tree, of all places. This illuminated, huge tree that it took me a minute, and I feel funny saying this, to figure out if it was real or not, because it was weird.
Yeah, it's a surreal.
Well, and it's growing, and there's some good special effects in this movie,
like
too, we should mention. There's a scene where, like, you see, like, a branch growing up and, like, growing arms and coming out above them. It's not like Avatar, stop that. Really kind of a magical, dreamlike scene, and they're transported back to their childhood. There's, like, toys. There's, like, you know, Mario, like a Mario toy, like, hanging from the tree, and
one of them had his favorite stuffed animal.
Yeah,
the bear.
It was cute, and there's slow motion of them wrestling, which also is, like, very sexually charged.
Totally.
And confusing. But it's kind of a sweet scene, because it's like them sort of, like, finally have gone through this whole journey of reconciling and atoning for the past, and for the one, you know, leaving the other after this horrible thing that happened. And they can sort of revel in the unbridled fun they used to have together.
Innocence, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they see the man in white again, and Jonah says, climb higher. Let's climb higher, as if to evade death. I mean, that was my interpretation, was this man in white was sort of a Grim Reaper type. And let's keep outrunning him as long as we can, because it's inevitable. And I think they climb higher and higher, and then they have this, like, come to Jesus moment where Corey apologizes in a way. I don't know if he actually said, I'm sorry, but he acknowledged that he left him behind and that it made him feel terrible and that he was his one true friend all along.
Yeah, not only did Corey cut and run when the sexual assault was taking place, which I'm not sure if we could fault him for that, but he, ignored him after that.
Right.
They didn't acknowledge each other after that.
He passed him in the hall, and
right.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the sexual assault? Because is it clear? I mean, I remember the scene. It's kind of like actually really expertly shot and edited, but it looks like a memory, like a hazy memory, where like you don't really see faces or anything. I suspect that it was Corey's friends, or people who later became his friends, who were...
I think they were a bit older.
I think they were older.
Okay.
But they were probably not unlike the type of friends that Corey gravitated toward as an older kid.
Yeah, sure, that connection is still there. I just wondered if it was actually like Django, like fucking Jonas.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think it would end with Django and Cody having a tender moment of their own on the bench.
Corey.
See, that's where I was at the end of the movie, thinking like, oh, like I understand, like you're a terrible person, or you were a terrible person, but it was all hormones and you can actually change. Like that's the way I read that final scene. Knowing full well that it might not be the right interpretation.
No, I think that's
at this point in the movie, I was so confused and bored that I was like, whatever, this is more fun for me.
Oh, I was so sad. I felt so sad.
In the end, Cody discovers Jonah's dead body in the river because he basically just got drunk, and I don't know. I think it's ambiguous whether or not he killed himself or whether or not it was an accident.
I think he just slipped and fell. Yeah.
I think he killed himself. He had some cuts on his arm.
Yeah.
Well, he was a cutter for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think he didn't die from cutting. He died from drowning.
Yeah.
But it's a happy ending because,
it was a sad ending.
Well, it's sad but it's in death. He's definitely, redeemed a lot of things. And the epilogue of the movie is just pure, happiness. And
yeah.
I didn't sense happiness. I mean, like, it's clear that Corey is keeping his friend's memory alive, but I thought it was sad. Like, he's trying to, like, FaceTime or, like, Skype his girlfriend in Canada, and the call cuts out, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna put on the mask of my dead friend and walk out into the streets of the city where I don't know anybody.
He's got presumably a poster-sized print of the photo.
The photo.
I thought it was sad. To me, it spoke of, like, you can move forward, but you can't really totally relinquish the past.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt that ending was very bittersweet. Like, I was like happy. Yeah. He's moved on. He made it to New York, but like he still doesn't have that girlfriend he always wanted. Like the connection isn't quite there, literally. And he can't get over his dead friend.
This is a great movie.
I cried.
I cried too. I cried when he said he wanted to go fishing with his dad finally, because that's all I wanted. I was like, by the end of this movie, if Corey's not nice to his dad, he's dead to me.
It's like,
and he was.
Do you want to go fishing this weekend? Like, oh my God, when that came up, I had waited the whole movie for that.
Me too. And he finally said, hey, Dad, can we go up? Are we still planning on going to the lake this weekend? And I was like, yay, Dad. Dad gets a win.
I'm going to go fishing with my dad.
Yeah,
That's the ultimate takeaway. I've been putting it off for 15 years, and I think now's the time.
It's a movie that, makes you want to be a better person.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Lesson learned, like...
Yeah.
It's like as good as it gets.
Don't take shit for granted.
It's like as good as it gets.
You make me want to be a better man.
I think it's like, don't take things for granted, People have thresholds and friends won't be around forever. And
sometimes you get raped in a tunnel.
Sometimes you get
raped
as a young
boy.
Tunnel. Don't take shit for granted, y'all.
So, Chris, what are we watching next time?
Next time we are watching Cabin Fever.
Wait. Like the Eli Roth movie or the remake?
So here's the thing. There are 2 Cabin Fevers on Netflix. One is a reboot or a remake of the first.
Reimagining, maybe.
Yeah. And then there's also the sequel to the original Cabin Fever.
Spring Fever.
We're going to see. So next time we're either going to do Cabin Fever or we're going to do Cabin Fever and the reboot of Cabin Fever together. We'll have to sort that out on our own time. But rest assured, there's going to be some discussion of some cabins and some fevers.
I think I'm going to have a fucking fever after watching any one of those movies.
And then coming up, of course, our special Halloween episode, release date to be determined on that one as well, but it will be before the new Halloween movie titled Halloween.
God, yeah, I mean...
It's theaters.
Now that you're saying that, I realize we really have to catch up, but we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. That's it. That's a wrap for, what the hell, Boys in the
Trees. The boys
trees.
and the girl are climbing down from the trees.
We're climbing down the trees.
Ready for bed.
Taking the masks off. And,
having a last couple of pieces of Halloween candy.
Yep. If you wanna take the mask off, or come on over, say trick or treat on our Facebook, Twitter, leave an iTunes review. You are more than welcome to.
We just can't bear to say goodbye. Is the point of all this?
All right.
So sad.
All right. Well, that's it. Until next time, for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Steven.
And Allison.
See you next time.